Yo, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another cook video. Today's video, we're gonna be doing a first for this channel. We're gonna be making some sausage. The sausage that we're gonna be making today is kielbasa, or also known as Polish sausage. The reason why I wanted to do this sausage is because it's a Chicago classic. I'm also curious to see if a homemade version that I'm gonna be making can be better than the ones that I usually eat around the city. And for those of you guys who are a little bit unfamiliar with the Polish style sausage in Chicago, we're gonna go on a little bit of field trip and go check it out.
This was just kind of like the hot spot to get some fast food late at night when they used to be 24/7 and it used to be way cheaper. It's a little more expensive now. So I went to Jim's. This is what I used to go to instead of Maxwell's. Why? I don't know. It's just like one of those things where you just pick one spot or the other, but they really just kind of sell the same thing. And they also come with these, I don't know what type of peppers these are. These are not sport peppers. People always say like these are sport peppers. No, they're not. They're way hotter than sport peppers. I think they're pickled serranos. Some of them are perfectly fine, and then you'll get other ones that will just light your mouth on fire. I'm gonna put these off to the side for now. Oh yeah, it's spicy. But as you guys can see right here, this side is not tied while this end is. Just a larger link that's been kind of split in half. It's a steamed bun, caramelized onions, and then there's a slather of mustard kind of all the way through the bun right there. Savory, salty. I think it's an all pork sausage. Steamed bun, which I think is crucial. Having enough mustard to kind of cover all of this, I think it's really important. And also this Polish sausage is not grilled. It's on a flat top. Really, it's just there just to warm it back up. All right, let's be brave and take a bite of one of these. Oh my God. Some of them are just way too spicy. That's one of them right there. I shouldn't have taken that second bite. Also, I should have said this earlier before I started eating this because I can't talk anymore. Don't do what I'm doing now. Don't eat this in your car. I'm only doing this because there's a lot of cars passing by. It's really loud outside, but it will make your car stink like fast food like no other. So anyway, I'm gonna go find some water and we're gonna try to make our own sausage just like that at home.
As you guys can see right now, I'm not in my typical setting. I'm not gonna be doing this in the kitchen just because I think sausage prep can get a little bit messy and I don't want a bunch of just like sausage juice to be all over the kitchen. But with all that being said, let's get into making some Polish sausage. All right, for this sausage, we are gonna be using this pork butt. For your meat to fat ratio in a sausage, you're looking for anything between 70-30 or 75 to 25%. This pork shoulder, I'm sure you guys have heard a lot that, you know, it's got a pretty good meat to fat ratio for sausage. For this particular sausage, I wanted to kind of keep it all porks, and we're gonna debone this sucker. That shoulder blade, we got that T-shape, then we also got that ball joint right there, so that's another thing that we'll have to kind of work our way around. But the way I like to start is I like to find that like long flat side, and I'm gonna make that my first initial cut. Once we clear this out, then we can have a flatter surface to kind of take out this area and then this area right here. If you wanted to, you can go to Costco. I know they got a bunch of those boneless shoulders and stuff like that, but it's kind of fun to kind of work with different things. Like I don't really get to do a lot of butchery, and this is a very small thing to do, like deboning a pork shoulder, but yeah, it's always fun to work on stuff like that. So now we got our fully deboned pork butt. We're still gonna cut these into fairly large strips. We'll cut these into chunks. Something that looks like that, you want to get something that's kind of even all the way across. Kind of think of it as like burn end chunk size. All right, there you have it, folks. This is our cubed up pork shoulder that we deboned. Next thing that we gotta do is we want to weigh out this pork shoulder so we can figure out the ratios for our spices and our salts and everything like that. So now that we got all the pork all ground up, now we gotta talk about our spices. I'm just gonna show you guys my ratios of what I'm dealing with right here. And of course, I spilled the curing salt. These are the ratios that I'm dealing with, and up top right here, I weighed out all the pork, and underneath there, I got all the different spices and everything that's going into the mix, put them into decimals instead of leaving as percentages. The reason why I did that is because most people don't know how to properly do it. To make it easier on yourself while you're doing the calculation, I would highly, highly recommend you guys changing it to decimals before you do all this, because it just makes it a lot easier. Now, I'll be back because I gotta refill this with curing salt. All right, so we got all of our 7 ingredients right here. And before we start mixing this into our ground pork, I wanna make sure that we can incorporate all this stuff together, because especially things like mustard powder, it's already kind of clumped up, and I wanna make sure we can break all that stuff up so it's evenly incorporated. Into our mixing bowl, we're gonna go with our salt, curing salt, or pink salt, garlic, pepper, mustard, or milk powder. And lastly, this is an ingredient that I've never used before, but margarine. So marjoram is a spice that is kind of, I think the way people describe it, similar to oregano. I've never used this before. I have never really had any purpose for it, but I had no idea that this was one of the main ingredients in Polish sausage. Like margarine and garlic are the 2 predominant flavors. So it's pretty cool that when you start eating other foods, you get introduced to things that you've never really had a purpose for, or you didn't know you had a lot. So we're just gonna give this a quick mix, make sure that milk powder is evenly incorporated. All that mustard is also broken apart, and we just want to make sure that it all looks the same. I just took this water out of the fridge just so it's nice and cold. We're just gonna add our water in here. I like doing this before I add in the spices, basically to get all the seasoning to stick to all the sides. But here's our sausage mix, and we're just going to mix it all the way through. Perfect. I think we got everything incorporated. Everything's nice and covered. Everything seems to be nice and even all the way across. If I had more time, I would love to let this sit overnight just so that we can get all the seasoning to kind of incorporate a little bit more. But I'm actually headed out of town soon, so I don't have that luxury. But the one thing that we'll do is we're gonna grind and stuff it today, and then we'll let it sit in the casings and dry out for a few days, and we should be perfectly fine. There are other barbecue places that do the same exact thing. Do you have to let this sit overnight? No, but you know, if you have the time and the luxury to do so, I think it makes it just a little bit better. And to be grinding our sausage, we're gonna be using this 1/2 horsepower meat grinder. If you guys plan on making a bunch of sausage, or you like grinding your own meat for burgers, I would highly recommend a little bit more expensive grinder, because all that other stuff that's really cheap, it just makes the job so much harder. So splurge a little bit and get yourselves a nicer meat grinder. As we kind of drop this in, you can kind of see there's no need for a plunger. All the pieces are the right size, and so as you drop one in, it just kind of just follows the next, and you just want to make sure that the other piece that kind of falls through acts as the plunger. The one thing that I didn't talk about before we started grinding up the sausage is the plate that we're using is a large die. It just leaves a better texture, in my opinion, instead of it being really homogeneous and having those really small kind of like spaghetti noodles looking like it's coming out of the grinder. But those big chunks of fat give it a little bit better of a bite. I know some people don't like it. I personally do. Now this step right here is super, super important to making sausage. So this is where that milk powder in there as the binder is doing its work. It's really making sure that everything kind of sticks together. And for places that don't use binders, or recipes that don't have binders in them, this is a very, very important part of the process. Good sausage is all about all these small steps in the process that you do well. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this before. To test it, you're gonna put some sausage in the palm of your hand, and as long as it sticks like that, we're pretty good. And just so that we can test the seasoning of this one, I'm gonna make us a little patty, and I'm gonna go test it out. All right, so here's a small patty of that sausage mix. So I would say the seasoning is right, but it's a little bit different because there's no smoke on this yet. Man, I'm really excited to see what this tastes like when it's smoked. A little bit water down here and just kind of keep it slick. Some people might use a little bit of oil. I just like using water. I got these casings from my local butcher shop that I go to. I want to take out one of those casings, and ooh, we found an end already. Perfect. That smell of sausage casing is so appetizing. This is a way to test to see that your casings don't have any holes in it either before you start filling it up. I'm gonna kind of get some water and just kind of push it through and kind of scoop a little bit in there. Make sure it's nice and lubricated and making sure that there are no holes. So far, no issues, and boom, we got a clean casing. Now we're gonna do the part of sausage making that everyone finds funny / inappropriate. And here we go. Now everything up to this point has been fairly clean, but because there's water and raw meat and all this kind of stuff, and it kind of gets messy. This is the reason why I don't like doing this inside the house. Now we're just gonna make a quick knot on the end right here. Find that, and I'm going to pinch it right here and give it its first twist. So we got that. I'm gonna kind of take that same link that we found, lay it over on top of, with the rest of the coil. We're gonna pinch it again. So that last one I twirled away, so this one I will twirl towards. So here are our links that we got. We got a couple of individual links right here. And then I also did this where it's a little bit more traditional. All right, so we're done for today, and we'll let this sit in the fridge and just kind of let the casings dry out. Yesterday, after we had finished stuffing it, didn't really smell that much like Polish or like sausage, but today, after being in the fridge overnight, this stuff is starting to smell like sausage for sure. It's pretty tacky right now. Even the bottoms are pretty dried out, which is nice, but I'm gonna give them all a little flip. Just so we can get the bottom side to dry out just a little bit more. And then after drying out just for a little bit longer, we'll get these on the smoker. We'll probably come back in like 10-15 minutes and throw on a log, and then we'll throw in the sausage right after. Super easy. I'm gonna keep these on our wire rack so we can keep them nice and clean as well. And the last thing that we're gonna do is just make sure none of them are touching. I'm just making sure it doesn't go too high, it doesn't go too low, because then it'll take forever. If you let it go too high, some of the fat will get cooked out and you'll have wrinkly links, and that's not what we're looking for. All right guys, so we're at the 4-hour mark, and I think these should be done, so let's take a look at them. Great color, the texture's really nice. We tied the ends of these casings right, so nothing's spilling out or it's not wrinkling on the edges. And right here, this is what I'm talking about, those bald spots right there, but I didn't want to move around too much, so it's fine. These look absolutely fantastic. We're gonna drop these in an ice bath. If you don't have enough ice or you forgot ice, it's not absolutely necessary. Try your absolute best to get these cooled down as quickly as possible. We are gonna be making some caramelized onions for our Polish. When you're caramelizing onions, I like to kind of go with the kind of grain of the onion this way. All right, even though this is quite a bit of onion, I'm gonna cut one more. We got about a large and a medium-sized onion, and I'm just gonna toss this in a pan. For me, honestly, I find that this is the best way to do it, and kind of the way that prevents me from burning the bottom sometimes. First, we're gonna salt the onions, and that'll help it just kind of release some of its moisture as we go. And I know because we just said we're trying to release moisture, this sounds strange, but I'm also gonna add a little bit of water in here. Initial part of this cook, we'll also put a lid on top of this pan so we can collect all that steam, and then go in there every once in a while to kind of toss the onions around to make sure the ones that are on the top get some contact with the bottom so those can caramelize. And over time, it should start to wilt down and become one homogeneous, delicious mess of sweet onions. These onions are about 30 minutes in. I moved this to a smaller pan just because with the bigger pan, with these onions starting to caramelize more, it makes the chance of it burning the bottom a little bit larger. So I put it in a smaller pan just so we can kind of like bring it all together and bring it into one lump so it kind of cooks a little bit slower. Probably go for another 15 minutes or so, or by the time all this water is evaporated from here, we should be good to go. Here's our sausage the next day. So here's one of the links that we made, and this is one of those bigger links that we'll use to cut in half and put inside of our bun for the Polish sausage. Also, to let you guys know that it's not absolutely necessary, even though I talked about ice baths and stuff like that the day before, these were actually just chilled on their own. I made sure there was enough space in between them to make sure that they cool down properly. You don't need to. I think it just helps when you have a lot and you don't have a lot of space to kind of cool these down. You're only doing a 5-pound batch, you don't have the ice or the space to do all that, like you don't have to, and it'll still come out great. We're not gonna put this back on the smoker. I'm simply just gonna put this in the oven at 275 and just let it go until the casing on the outside is really nice and taut. You can kind of see the outside right here is a little bit wrinkly right now, and you know, that's okay. Once you see it cooked afterwards, it's gonna plump up nice. All right guys, so we just pulled this out of the oven, and I told you, all those wrinkles would be gone once we got these nice and lumped up. Ooh, it's hot. It's got great color. You can see the specks of the black pepper. You can also see the coarseness of that meat to fat ratio in there because we only went through it once on that coarse dye. Pretty juicy right there. It's got great texture. I'm very happy with the sausage. As good as that sausage was on its own, let's make a Polish. And as you guys can see on that, that looks pretty. Now the Polish at Jim's and Maxwell's doesn't have poppy seeds, but I like poppy seeds, so we're gonna use that. A little yellow mustard, and instead of just drizzling on the top, we're gonna put a little mustard down, and then we're gonna smear on the inside right here, just so we get some even mustard distribution. And we're gonna put our oversized link on top like this, an excessive amount of caramelized onions. And earlier this week, I pickled some serrano, so we're gonna stick that right there as well because that is what I'm used to seeing. All right, so I haven't been this excited to do a taste test in a very long time. So for right now, I'm gonna take off this pepper and let's try this all together. I haven't had it all together yet. That's so good. Oh my God. Let's try one of these pickled serrano. It's not hot at all. It's like a pickle. But this right here, and I think the grind is perfect. I think having a little bit more coarseness, having a little bit bigger chunks of fat, and not having to be really smooth throughout, it just makes it a lot better. Steamed bun is really soft. The caramelized onions are soft. The peppers are supposed to give it a little bit of crunch and some heat, but no heat, but a little bit more texture. And so the sausage itself is really important to help kind of like bring something different to the entire experience itself. And that snap, I think similar to barbecue or just cooking with fire in general, sausage making or that kind of process is also done all over the world. And I would love to be able to explore other cuisines just based off how everyone does sausage as well. End of this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure to like this video. If you have any questions or suggestions for me, please leave a comment down below and let me know if you've had a Maxwell Street Dog before or if this is the first time you've heard of it. And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next one.